of St. James, other special guests, representatives of the media, my fellow Jamaicans at home and abroad, good afternoon. I want to start off by sharing two thoughts. The first is, if you want to test a man's character, or a woman's character for that matter, give them power. That was a quote from Abraham Lincoln. The other quote, I was trying to find the actual person who said it. My recollection is that it was said by a former US president more than a century ago. So I'm paraphrasing. And he said, the greatest challenge of a president is to select the right people for the right job. And I could identify with that. Indeed, may I be so bold, Excellency, as to say that you could identify with that as well, seeing that you brought that quotation to my attention. It was not an easy task to put this cabinet together. The public looking in may very well come to the conclusion that it was an easy task, seeing that I now have what I would consider to be a full deck of cards from which to choose. The challenge, of course, is that the Jamaican public, by and large, votes presidentially, meaning they vote for the leader of a party or who they would like to see as prime minister. And there is always a consideration of who is the member of parliament, but the mechanics in the minds of the voter, ultimately, who should be the prime minister. However, our system is not presidential. The prime minister is not at large to assemble his or her cabinet. The cabinet must be returned from the people that are elected. There is a narrow scope in terms of who you can select from the Senate. In our Constitution, you are allowed 4 selections from the Senate. I start at this point because paying very close attention, as I do, to public opinion, and by the way, which every prime minister must, in our democracy, the voice of the people must be heard, must be considered, and must be taken seriously. So everything that is said, I consume with great, I have a great appetite for public opinion. So ministers in our system are therefore not expected to be subject experts. The public, however, does have a view that the prime minister should, as far as possible, select persons who display great competence in the subject area of their appointment. The challenge, of course, is that the people who are elected are not always subject experts. So what then is the essence of a minister? Is it competence in a subject area? Or is it good judgment to administer the affairs of the public, to be able to filter good advice from bad advice, to find the right people to be advisors. What then is the essence of the ministerial responsibility? Is it knowledge of the subject or integrity of the character of the person? That the discretion and power vested in the minister will always be used for the public's interest and not for personal interest. What then is the essence of ministerial service? Is it that they have deep knowledge, greater knowledge than everyone else in the subject area? Or is it that they will dedicate every fiber of their being, all the energy of their spirit, in serving the public without fail? So there is a raging debate about the cabinet and the people who are appointed. And as I said, I pay close attention to it. Much of it could be informed by a deeper understanding of how our government works. But I do understand the concerns of the public. Jamaica has progressed significantly, I would think, in terms of its governance. I shared with the cabinet on the cabinet designate, if that is the appropriate term, on Friday when I announced the ministers, that I did not have a sense of triumph, that I did not feel the thrill of victory, having, of course, experienced the agony of defeat before. I expressed to them that I was very pensive because the character of men will be tested and we will know them, especially now with a large majority. My job is even that much more difficult, to ensure that this cabinet, this government, stays in line with the expectations of the people. We are at an inflection point. I hate to use that terminology, but that's where we are. We are at a turning point, a tipping point. Something new and good and powerful can happen in our country by our actions. If we decide, as ministers, to exercise the power and authority vested in you by these instruments, with the highest level of integrity, dignity, and efficiency, something good can happen in our nation. But it depends on what we choose to do before the electorate chooses to do what they must. I think I've said enough.